Let's take a little test, shall we? Give yourself 1 point for each question you give a yes answer to. Number 1, does saying no make you feel guilty? Number 2, do you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to other people? Number 3, do you find it hard to stand up for your values and beliefs, especially when you are around people who do not share those same values and beliefs? Number 4, do you hesitate to take the initiatives on projects, or do you tend to sit back and assume that someone else will be able to do a better job than you could do? Number 5, do you worry about impressing others? Number 6, are you easily intimidated? Number 7, do you worry about your finances? And number 8, do you worry about what the future holds? Hi, if we haven't met before, I'm Shelley from Taming Frenzy. So, how'd you do? Obviously, the more questions that you answered yes to, the lower your confidence. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you need a real confidence boost if you got a set number of yes answers. You're intelligent. You can look at your answers and figure that out. Besides, you probably already knew in your gut if you have some confident issues, right? However, as you answer each of those questions, you can get insight into what particular area you may be lacking confidence. Because here is something important to remember. It is possible to be confident in one area and lacking in confidence in another area. That's right. We may find that we're perfectly confident when it comes to handling our finances, but that we have trouble standing up for our values and beliefs when we're around others who don't agree with us. After all, we've all got our quirks and we've all got our weaknesses. But now that you have pinpointed some areas where you may lack confidence, what can you do about it? The first thing to remember is that no is not a dirty word. If you tend to feel guilty when you have to say no to someone, it might be because you lack faith in your decisions. You may be someone who hates to disappoint people. After all, there are a lot of people pleasers out there, so if this is you, you've got lots of company. But if this is you, then it's also very likely that you tend to take on things that you shouldn't, or perhaps that you really didn't want to. If that's the case, you may find yourself making excuses later to get out of something that you've already committed to. But doing this not only causes you anxiety, it leaves the other person in the lurch. It actually would be easier for you and the person who's requesting something of you for you just to go ahead and give them a definite no at the time so they can move on. So how do you say no nicely and in a manner that will not cause the other person to start trying to wear you down and get you to eventually say yes? First off, no is a complete sentence. But you do want to say no in a way that doesn't leave that other person thinking, well, if I just ask and just kind of needle a little bit more, maybe I can get them to change their mind. You want to be firm and decisive in your no. You can say things like, I've already got too much on my plate right now, or my calendar is already too full, or that's just not something I can commit to, or even suggesting someone else who might be willing to take on the responsibility. These are all some polite ways to say no, but that leave the door closed so that the person doesn't end up going away and thinking, I'll come back and I'll get at them later and I'll get them to say yes. But whatever approach you decide to use, once you say no, do not then later give in and say yes. When you do this, you're teaching that other person that your no is never final and that if they keep at you, they can get you to change your mind. That's not the lesson you want to teach. You want to teach people that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. And when you turn your no into a yes, you greatly increase the odds that you're going to be in this exact same position again, and probably again and again. Secondly, comparing yourself to others is never a good thing for your confidence. It's easy to compare yourself to others because, let's face it, there's always other people around. It might be your neighbor next door, it might be a friend, it might be someone you work with, or it might be someone that you really don't know personally, but someone who has traits or characteristics or something else that you are sitting back and admiring from afar. But here's the thing. There are always going to be people who are smarter than you, who have more money than you, who have more material possessions than you, who have some characteristic or trait. They may have some talent that you do not have. People exist on a continuum, and wherever we are, there will always be folks who have more, and there will always be folks who have less. But here are some more truths. What you consider smarter may actually only be that they have more education. This is something you can fix. Read more books, and not just trashy novels, although I happen to love my trashy novels. Listen to educational podcasts and documentaries. Find educational or inspirational or motivational podcasts to listen to, learn a new skill, or work to develop the talents that you have. The point is that we can all do things to improve our brain and learn more. So get started. With each step you take, you'll feel a little bit better about yourself. Also, keep in mind that we never really know how much money somebody has. Just the fact that they appear to be financially well off, it may simply be indicative of the amount of debt that they're willing to take on. They may appear to have more simply as a way to impress other people, and we should never assume that the Joneses really have what we may think they have when we look on the surface. Things are never totally like they look to us on the outside when we're looking in. And if you want to increase your own net worth, you might consider something like starting a second career. Part of the reason that I advocate starting some kind of a side hustle or second career after you leave your primary career and retire. Also, keep in mind that the people who have those talents and skills and traits and abilities that you do not have likely spent a lot of time developing those and honing those skills to perfection. There's a saying I see a lot online that says, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Everybody starts at the beginning. Everybody starts as a total newbie or a total novice. Everybody starts totally at ground zero in the beginning. So instead of feeling less than because someone is better at something than you are, put that energy and that time into honing the talents and the skills that you already possess. Use that other person as an inspiration and motivation in your own personal development journey. Take the steps, learn from others, and one day you may be surprised to find that someone else is comparing themselves to you. A third area that's difficult sometimes for us to be confident in is expressing our values and beliefs to others. Now, I'm going to be honest and admit that I recognize that this one can be really tough during these divided times. Too many people have taken the attitude that if you don't agree with me, you're totally wrong, you're a bad person. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of that online the last few years. You probably have too. But it's natural for people to have different opinions on things. That doesn't make them horrible people. One of my absolute biggest pet peeves about social media and the news and everything else, it seems these days, is that it has caused us to believe that anybody who is different or who thinks different is automatically, they should just be discounted. This type of thinking has caused many people to just simply keep their beliefs and their opinions to themselves, which is not always a bad thing, to be real honest. We don't necessarily need to express every thought and every opinion that we hold in our head. In fact, things might improve if people did quit trying to express every thought and every opinion that they have and then trying to beat others into agreeing with them. Now, there is a time and a place when it is important to stand up for your beliefs and your values, and when it's important to articulate the particular things that you believe in. And it can be difficult to do this if you're surrounded by people that you know hold differing opinions about those things. But you can say things like, we just need to agree to disagree. Or, we don't have to agree on everything in order to be respectful to each other. Or, even though I don't agree with you on that, you're still my friend. Or, I don't agree with your opinion on that, but that's okay. In other words, we do not have to respond with vitriol and venom even when people disagree with us, and even if we're on the receiving end of some of that ourselves. It's important to know what we believe in. But if you're finding yourself surrounded by people who are not able to respect your beliefs, or who belittle you or put you down for the things that you hold near and dear, it might be time to consider some of those relationships. Now, sometimes it's hard to take the initiative when it comes to projects or assignments or different tasks. One way to increase your confidence is to learn to feel good about taking on new things that are difficult for you. There's nothing wrong with taking a back seat for a while and observing and watching others who know more than you do and learning from them. Doing so will let you absorb some of the things that they know so that you'll be ready when it's your turn to step up and take the initiative and take the lead. And those people that you're learning from, how do you think they got to be so competent? And here's the other thing. We learn to do things by getting in there and by doing the things. If we get in there and we feel like we're over our head, we can reach out to someone for some advice, for some expertise, for some help. And also we need to have confidence that we do have the ability to figure things out. Just because we may not feel confident and feel like we know how to do something now does not mean that we are incapable of figuring it out and learning how and doing a good job. After all, those other people also had to step up at some point whether they felt ready or not. Next, it's important to quit worrying about impressing other people. I read a quote several years ago that's always stuck with me. It said, "You wouldn't worry so much about what other people think of you if you realized how little they actually do." In other words, people don't spend nearly as much time thinking about us and worrying about us as we might think they are. Yet we spend time thinking that they are spending their time thinking about us, analyzing us, judging us, and criticizing us. And the simple truth is that most people are too wrapped up in their own day-to-day problems and concerns and issues to really spend that much time thinking about you. To be perfectly blunt, you are probably not that important to those other people that you feel like are sitting back judging you and that you are feeling a need to impress. That's not a bad thing. That's actually very liberating and very freeing once you internalize that idea that other people are not spending that much time thinking about you, worrying about you, judging you, that they are too busy with their own lives to spend all that much time thinking about you. I just think that's the best quote I ever read, and it has liberated me so much. The wonderful thing about that realization is it frees you to be totally, uniquely, and authentically you. And here's the upside to that. When you are your authentic, true self, other people will either be drawn to you or they won't. Either way, that's a good thing. Next, in order to increase our confidence, we need to stop being so intimidated by other people. Now, generally when we feel intimidated by someone, it's because we think they have something that we personally lack. That may be some skill, some talent, some possession, but hopefully some of what I've already said is helping you to realize that you don't need to worry about those other people and that you are not inferior to them in any way. Yes, you may be in a different spot than they are on your life journey and in your personal growth and in your development, but being in a different place does not make you inferior. Now, are you different from other people? Yeah, I'm sure you are. I personally believe that we are all unique and that we are all different and that is a good thing. So relax. Quit thinking so much about what those other people are thinking. Enjoy your particular situation and your particular circumstances and quit giving them so much of your time and attention. Quit letting them live rent-free in your head. And remember that when it's over, those other people really just aren't giving you that much thought. The next area is finances and our confidence. Now, let's just admit it. There is something about being financially secure that makes us feel more confident. So, now that little ugly truth is just out there, now we can move on. The important thing to realize about financial situations is they're not static. They're not permanent. They can be changed. We can improve our financial situation if that is something that we worry about. Now, if you're not great with your money habits, you may need to implement some things to track your spending and to track your savings. I happen to have a financial planner that's available on my site that gives you a place to track your monthly bills, your extra spending, a way to track your debt. It gives you a way to put everything in one place so that you can get a very clear picture of where you are financially. Once you have clarity surrounding your finances, it's easier to put a plan in place to make it easier to start saving money, to whittling down that debt, and to building wealth for your future. But at some point, you may want to make an appointment with the financial planner so that you can get help and advice and start setting up the things you need to do so that you will be more financially secure in the future. The point is that you can take steps to improve your finances so that you don't feel like a fraud when comparing yourself to someone else. And finally, the future is unknown for everybody. None of us has a crystal ball, and so none of us knows what's going to happen in the future. Goodness knows I have wished for a crystal ball more times than I can tell you in my life. But what we can do now is to make decisions that will set us up for the best future possible. This means making good choices about our health, about our finances, about our relationships, and about our career. Because every decision that we make in these areas impacts us later on in life. In a previous video, I talked about this particular book, Be Your Future Self Now, and that's what I'm referring to here. And if you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. I will leave a link to it in the description below. But it's important to make decisions based upon facts. And we want to make these decisions based upon the vision that we have for our future. The thing is, if you haven't taken some time to think about your future and to come up with a vision, now is a good time to do so that we can make decisions today that will set us up for the best future possible. Doing this gives us the confidence that everything we're doing now is setting us up for the best future that we can have. And that gives us confidence to face whatever then comes next. So, what else can you do to increase your confidence? Now that you've spent some time evaluating your confidence, it's time to start taking some steps to increase it. It can take a little work. It can take some determination. And things are not always easy to change, but they're also not impossible. In fact, every step that you take increases your confidence just a little bit. And those little things add up more than you might realize when you first get started. I would suggest working on one area at a time until you feel much more confident in that area, and then moving on to the next area rather than trying to change everything at once. And then at some point, come back to these questions, reconsider them again, and see how you're doing. I'm confident that if you do, that you'll be happy with the progress that you've made. In the meantime, I'd really love to know what area you struggle with the most and what steps you're taking. Leave me a comment below. Let's talk about it.